any attention really to the world news in the past weekish, you know that it's been a doozy. Obviously, there's a big referendum with Great Britain and the EU. There's still war going on in Syria. There's economic turmoil in Venezuela and in Brazil. There's weird dynamics and posturing going on around the South China Sea and North Korea, and just about any corner of the globe you turn to, there's something going on that the people who live there really wish wasn't going on. And in times like this, it's challenging to know what to do with our hearts. I know my natural tendency is to go all avoidant about it, kind of bury my head in the sand somewhere, and la la la, kind of wait for it to blow over, because it's either do that or like freak out. Different people cope with it in different ways. Different people fail to cope with it in different ways. But anytime our society, the world around us, is in upheaval, it is really easy to lose our bearings emotionally and spiritually, and to just start getting caught up in the swirl of what is even going on right now. And as I was thinking about just the various things that are happening in the world right now, and as I was kind of getting pulled into that undertow, I got to thinking about when Jesus was talking to his disciples about a time of global upheaval. This is in Matthew 24, by the way. So the disciples have just asked Jesus, "What will be the sign of your coming and the sign of the end of the age?" Obviously a very important topic. They're wanting to be alert, they're wanting to be prepared. They are with the Messiah in Jerusalem, so this seems like it's kind of an imminent thing. And Jesus answers, it says to them, "Take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and they will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these things are the beginning of sorrows." So, okay, let me get this straight, Jesus. You said that many people will come claiming to be Christ, but they're not. Don't be deceived. That we will be hearing of wars and rumors of wars, nations rising against nations, famines, pestilences, but we shouldn't be troubled. But all of those things are troubling things. And then you say, but the end is not yet, implying that this is the beginning of sorrows, implying that there's more coming? Great, thanks a lot. I feel so untroubled by this information. We see a similar dynamic happening in John 14 to 16. It's the same week in Jesus' life, but it's being told from a different perspective. And John is recording this conversation that Jesus is having with his disciples right before he goes to the cross. And he tells them all kinds of things. Some of it is very comforting, like the Holy Spirit who will be sent to dwell in you. Some of it is not so comforting, at least not at first glance. He talks about how he's going to be leaving them and they can't come with him. He's going to prepare a place for them, which is good, but he's going away, which is bad, but he's sending the helper, and it's better for you that I go. Okay, I guess it's okay, but I'm going to have to take that one on faith because I don't want you to leave, Jesus. And then if that weren't enough, he goes on to talk about these times where, hey, the world hated me, it's going to hate you too. There's a time where people are going to persecute you and kill you and kick you out of the synagogues thinking that they're doing God a favor. And the disciples are going, okay, great. You're going to leave. People are going to hate us. People are going to start killing us. Awesome. Now Jesus says, I've told you these things that you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. Like, there you go again. Yes, I feel so peaceful about the fact that I'm going to suffer. I feel so peaceful about the fact that people are going to hate me and kill me because they hated you. Yep, thanks for that one. But Jesus says, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. And this is where we start to tap into how we're not troubled when we see the wars and rumors of wars. How are we not troubled when we see the world growing increasingly hostile to the gospel? How are we not troubled when the trouble that the Lord spoke of coming upon the earth comes upon the earth. And this doesn't have to be the end time trouble for it to be genuine, real, nation-rattling trouble. And how do we carry our hearts? Well, we take heart that Jesus has overcome the world. And there are a couple of things in this. On the one hand, there's just a simple matter of perspective. Jesus has overcome the world. We read the book, we know how this ends. He wins, the devil loses, the world gets transformed and renewed, we get transformed and renewed. It all works out okay in the end, which is very, very important to keep in mind. But that doesn't always help us get over the fact that, okay, yes, in a million years, I'm going to be so happy I followed Jesus, and I'm going to look back at all of this and laugh, but I've got to deal with tomorrow. And tomorrow kind of looks like it's going to stink. What do I do? Well, this is where we start asking, where is our faith in this hour? Is our faith in the blind optimism that just everything's going to be okay? It'll work itself out, that conflict between those two nations. It'll all come out in the wash. The economy will just bounce back. It's fine. We don't have guarantees of this stuff. Is our faith in the fact that, well, we've got all these organizations designed to promote peace in the earth. All these alliances, all these treaties, a bunch of nations. We've progressed so far. We don't want to fight and kill each other. We'll figure something out. Well, humans are not really any smarter or more advanced or dignified or civilized than we've ever been. Like, let's be honest. We're really good at getting at each other's throats. We don't have any guarantee that humanity can work it out. In fact, we've got a guarantee that we are doomed to fail governing ourselves because we're all bound under sin apart from Christ. And there's no way that a collectively wicked people can produce a righteous government. So we can't have our faith in that. But we can have our faith in the one who's already overcome the world. In Psalm 27, David is dealing with his own personal time of his heart being troubled. He's describing armies that are encamped against him, enemies and foes gathered around him to consume him. And, okay, when we're reading it today, it's easy to kind of think of it in terms of poetic hyperbole, but to David, this was real. Like, Saul literally had an army sent after him to kill him. David's life was uncertain a lot of times, from when he was a boy and he's having to defend his flock against wild animals, to where he's anointed king, but Saul is still technically king, and he's not having any of this, to when he himself is on his throne and would have people rise up and plot against him. Like, David faced serious, life-threatening problems a lot. And he's describing that dynamic in Psalm 27, where armies are gathered against him, enemies seeking to destroy him. What does he do? Psalm 27:4, he says, "One thing I have desired of the Lord, that will I seek, to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to inquire in his temple, and to behold his beauty." In the time of pressure in David's life, he couldn't count on the fact that, well, he's the biggest, baddest warrior that's ever landed on the earth. Because, okay, even the toughest guy against an army, it's not good odds. He can't trust that Saul will just get over it and kind of move on. He's got one person to run to. And in the time where David is under threat, he looks to the beauty of the Lord, to the place of fellowshipping with the Lord. And going back to Matthew 24, we've got those wars, those rumors of wars. We see these shifting, this rattling on a global level. What do? How do we not let our hearts be troubled? How do we take heart and be of good cheer? We have to look to the one who's overcome it all. We have to look to Jesus. We have to know who he is. And we have to give ourselves fully to beholding him, to seeing what he's really like, seeing his beauty, which means the sum total of who he is. Okay, the nations are doing I don't even know what right now, but the Lord is good, and he has overcome, and he's going to make the wrong things right. Governments are unstable. There are world leaders being forced out of office. There are world leaders stepping down out of office. There are world leaders being elected where nobody quite knows how this is working because we're not sure we want this person in charge, but here they are. But the Lord is the same. He never fails. He isn't changed with the seasons like man is. The book of Ecclesiastes would describe a scenario like we're seeing today. So, it's all vanity. Everything under the sun is this vain pursuit, a chasing after the wind. But I can look at God and know my fellowship with him, my love for him, my service to him, my offering of myself to him is not in vain. I could work all my life for money that could disappear in a heartbeat in an economic crash. Nothing that I lay up with the Lord will be lost. Maybe I look at my government and I just think the whole thing is corrupt and is there any saving it? I go, my king loves justice. He loves righteousness and hates wickedness. The nations are clamoring for position and for power, but I know the one who sits in heaven and who laughs. We talked about that with Psalm 2 a while ago. So how do we keep our hearts from being troubled? It doesn't mean we're not sobered by the hour that we live in. It doesn't mean we stop paying attention. It doesn't mean we stop feeling things. But whether we panic, whether we sink into despair, or whether we actually find stability and comfort and courage depends on where our gaze is. Where is our faith? Who do we trust? Who are we looking to? What are we filling our eyes and our mind with in this season? Where is our hope? It's got to be in the Lord. It's got to be in beholding his beauty, in looking at the one who's overcoming the world and going, no, this is where my faith is, and none of this nonsense on the earth can touch that. So I hope this is a little bit encouraging to some of you. I would encourage you, when you're getting overwhelmed with the circumstance, find that psalm, that story in the gospel, that epistle, whatever it is, that kind of calls your attention back to the beauty of God, his nature, his character, his goodness, his kindness, his righteousness, and give yourself to meditating on that, praying through it, talking to the Lord about it. Because in many ways, the beauty of God is the antidote for our troubled little hearts, where we can find home base again. We can remember which way is up. We can remember who's really in charge here. And we can remember what's really important here. And we can find a resolve to stand in this hour and to not be caught up in the confusion and the chaos of the rest of the earth. Have any thoughts or questions? I'd love to hear from you. Leave them in a comment below or on the Facebook page, on the website. All of that information is in the description on the video. I'm Amanda Beatty. This has been the Interwebercessor channel, and I will see you next week. Bye.